أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Tonight, inshallah, we're going to talk about the revelation of the Qur'an itself. But before we'll do this, and the transmission also of the Qur'an. But before we do this, usually our scholars within this field, they give the definition of the Al-Qur'an, and we don't want to go through the different definition of the Qur'an, but we go through the one definition only, which is the one adopted by many scholars, and it became like the main definition since the 10th century. So they define the Qur'an as Kalamullah, the speech of Allah, the word of Allah, Kalamullah al-Munazzal ala Muhammadin sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is revealed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam biwasitati Jibril, through the angel Jibril alayhi salam, al-muta'abbadu bitilawatihi, where when you recite the Quran, it is a part of worship. Al-maktubu fil masahif, and the one written on the mushafs. Al-mubtada'u, the one it starts bil-Fatiha, with Surah al-Fatiha, wal-muntahi bi Surah al-Nas. This is the most comprehensive definition of the Quran. And you can see that, for example, that's written in the Mus'haf. You can say that it's a late stage, because at the beginning there was no Mus'haf and we couldn't talk about this. So al-maktub fil masahif. And then they said the al-muta'abbadu bi tilawati. So when you recite the Quran, it is ibadah. This to exclude what? The hadith. If you recite, of course, everything, if you do it with a niyyah, that's, you have ajr, inshallah. But you don't actually recite in hadith. It's not the same level as reciting the Quran. Although hadith, it's kind of revelation, kind of wahy. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Utitu al-wahyayn." I was given the two wahyis, al-Qur'ana wa mathilahu, which is Sunnah. So al-Qur'an and as-Sunnah, because Sunnah, it's an interpretation of the Qur'an. It's things like Sallu, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala command his servant to pray. But how many prayers? How do we pray? There is nothing in the Quran. All these from the Sunnah of Prophet. Same thing with zakah. How do we give zakah? All these numbers and nisab, and we don't have any explanation in the Quran. But the main teaching are there. So that's utitu al-wahyayn. And there are actually many things around the definition, but we don't want to get into these again. The idea here is just to have an overview of these sciences. We don't want to get into much details, which doesn't serve the aim from this course. And then after that, they talk about nuzul al-Quran, the revelation of the Al-Quran. And this is mainly related to the asbab al-nuzul, they call it asbab, the causes, why this particular ayah was revealed, sabab, the reason. For not every single ayah, but most of the ayah, there was a reason through 23 years. There was a reason. Then Jibreel alayhi salam will come down and bring the revelation. And through these, we now do the Makki al-Madani, those Makki, those surahs and verses were revealed in Mecca, and those in Medina. So the Meccan and the Medinan And we have another topic they usually discussed lengthy, but we don't go into take, which is the notion of the 7 letters of the Quran. We're not going to discuss these. It's quite very technical issue, very technical subject, and we don't want to get into these. But usually within these, they discuss these concepts. أنزل القرآن على 7 أحرف. The Quran was revealed in 7 different ahruf, and this ahruf has been written hundreds of pages on these. We don't want to get into these. So as we last week we said that the beginning of the revelation was in Hira, in Ghar Hira, and the cave of Hira. Some of you visited the cave itself, the place where the first contact for the Muslims between the earth and as-sama. So it was there in Ghar Hira, and there is nearly an ijma' consensus among scholars and among our shuyukh for the last 40 centuries that the first 5 verses were revealed from Surah Al-Alaq. اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. So that's the 5 verses. The first one, اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. Only 5 verses, and as we said last week from the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha, then the Jibreel alayhi salam informed the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I am Jibreel and you are the prophets for this ummah. So that's how it started. They talk about if you can name these 2 stations of revelation, 2 phases. The first phase, which is when Jibreel alayhi salam, this is why we have إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ فِي لَيْلَةِ الْقَدْرِ شَهْرُ رَمَضَانَ الَّذِي أُنزِلَ فِيهِ الْقُرْآنُ هُدًى لِلنَّاسِ, and it was revealed in Ramadan. And this one, we shouldn't be confused with was Ramadan there described on the Ummah? No, Ramadan was in Medina during the Medinan period, but that was the month of Ramadan in the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during the month of Ramadan. Although Ramadan, it wasn't known to Muslims at the time, but it was during the Shahr Ramadan. So Shahr Ramadan الذي أنزل فيه القرآن, and we have إنا أنزلناه, we have the في ليلة مباركة, in a blessed night, which is all our scholars agreed this is Laylatul Qadr. Yeah. When we don't know which, but it is during the last 10 days. But the first, before the revelation came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Jibreel, according to our scholars, Jibreel alayhi salam took the whole Quran, and he alayhi salam took this Quran from what we call al-Lawh al-Mahfuz, yeah, the different interpretation, the sacred tablets, the preserved table tablets, the Qadr tablets, but this is al-Lawh al-Mahfuz, where all what's happened to the creation is written there. So he took the Quran as a mass, as we know it now, and he take it down to as-sama ad-dunya. Now that we have 7 samawat. So the first sama is sama ad-dunya. This is nearly again an ijma' consensus among our scholars. Only a minority will be disagreed on this. And then from sama ad-dunya, Jibreel will take it down to the Prophet ﷺ within 23 years. And in the Quran, the Tanzil itself, revelation, we call it in the Arabic, in the terminology of Quran, النزول. However, Al-Quran used two different verbs. We highlighted these, I think, 4 years ago. Al-Quran used anzala, anzala, and nazzala. Two different, the same root letters, nun, zay, lam. But the form is different in terms of verbs. So, inna anzalnahu fi laylat al-qadr. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. So this here is أنزل. So أنزل here referring to the second phase. But نزل, whenever you see نزل in the Quran, that's referring to the first phase, which is referring to the revelation of the Quran in one mosque. Yeah, the whole of the Quran was revealed. So whenever you see these, وَنَزَّلْنَاهُ تَنزِيلًا وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا kuffar, what they said, they claimed, because what they said, Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, taking the revelation bit by bit. So they questioned, وَقَالَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا لَوْلَا نُزِّلَ, not أنزل, لَوْلَا نُزِّلَ. You see the verb, عَلَيْهِ القرآن جملة واحدة. Why Quran is not revealed in a mass once to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. But the verb, you see the Quran very actually precise in here. The kuffar, they did not use anzala because they know anzala this gradually. So you do it, and this is related to the Arabic language, by the way. Yeah, which is this form is when you do an action gradually, but this nazala, which is an exaggeration form in the Arabic language itself. Again, something related to the language. So nazala is the first phase, and anzala is the second phase. So in Laylat al-Qadr, yeah, Jibril took the whole of the Quran down, and then through the 23 years, depends on the contexts, on the questions of the community, the companions, the non-Muslims, and so on. Asbab nuzul, and I will reveal. And you may say, how? This is in the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because all these, yeah, it is, we need to understand the wahy and the revelation in a parallel with the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially kalam and ilm, knowledge, and so on. So that's the first revelation happened. And some of them, yeah, they talk about what actually what is the wisdom behind this? Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed Al-Quran? Al-Quran used a particular term here called nujum, which is nujum, not stars, but nujum here is this the revelation when it comes in gradually. So one by one by one by one. This is it, tanjim or nujum. So one of the benefits of these, and one of the points they discussed here, the wisdom, is to comfort the heart of the Prophet ﷺ. They said tathbit qalb al-Nabi ﷺ, because as we said the last time, this revelation is very heavy, even for the Prophet ﷺ. We mentioned the hadith. It's not easy. So to have the whole revelation in a once, these, maybe the Prophet ﷺ, for sure, otherwise the Quran would come in once. But it didn't come, because this will be hard for the Prophet ﷺ to take these revelation in a once. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the Quran in 23 years. And in fact, our scholars, they discuss when the Prophet ﷺ, when the wahy, when the revelation stopped, paused for a while. Different views. Some of them said 3 months, some of them 5 months, some of them say 2 years, which is, it's not strong opinion, but we have 3 months, we have 5 months. So when, alhamdulillah, when the revelation paused and stopped, Quraysh, the whole actually, the people of Quraysh were very happy and said, the Prophet, Allah has, Inna Rabba, the Lord of Muhammad, has neglected him. Inna Rabba Muhammadin qad qalah, which, he abandoned his servant. And this quite hurted the Prophet ﷺ. And also, Aisha radiallahu anha said, even the tastes, it's like, when we, in a moment when we recite the Qur'an and we live this beauty of the Qur'an, and you may hear people weeping, crying, these emotions. Imagine we as Muslims, we cannot compare ourselves to the Prophet ﷺ. So imagine how the Prophet ﷺ would taste and miss these amazing words from Jibreel alayhi salam. He would actually take this directly from Jibreel alayhi salam. Such beautiful for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This was, this is his food. So he missed this. And it was in the meantime quite a challenge for him. Yes, I received it. I am the Prophet. I received the revelation. And then suddenly it stopped. So how can you argue, okay, can you bring more revelation? He couldn't, sallallahu, because he had to wait for Jibreel to come. So it was even hard for the Prophet sallallahu to discuss this with Quraysh, to give an explanation why al-wahy, it stopped. And he couldn't give an explanation, simply, because he had to wait for the revelation. And you know the story of Surah Al-Kahf, which I recite part of it, وَلَا تَقُولَنَّ لِشَيْءٍ إِنِّي فَاعِلٌ ذَلِكَ غَدٍ إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ. When the Jews, the Jewish community came to him, the Quraysh, they seek actually the help from them, and they said, we have to challenge this man, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He claimed that he is his prophet. So make sure, because you are people of the book, you are the most knowledgeable people nowadays. Yeah, show us. Then ask him 3 questions. If he answers them, he is prophet. If not, he's a liar. He's not. And then, سألوه عن فتية, ask him about a young, 6, 7 young, they disappear and they run from their people. What's their story? And سألوه عن رجل طواف, ask him about a man who traveled a lot from the east to the west, which is ذو القرنين. ما كان من خبره, again, what is his news, what is the وسألوه عن الروح, ask him about what is the ruh. And then so Quraysh, they back to the Prophet, asked him, happy, we got him, so we're going to challenge him. Okay, I have 3 questions to you, and you have to answer these. 1, 2, 3, and the Prophet asked him, back tomorrow. But he didn't say, inshallah. Then they're back tomorrow, no answer. After tomorrow, no answer. According to Tabari, 2 weeks, and then the Prophet started panicking. There's no way. So the verse, وَلَا تَقُولَنَّ, because he missed, inshallah. وَلَا تَقُولَنَّ لِشَيْءٍ إِنِّي فَاعِلٌ ذَلِكَ غَدًا, except إِلَّا أَنْ يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ. So for him, he lived this moment of challenge from the Meccan society. So the verse came down, the surah al-Duha, وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى, مَا وَدَّعَكَ رَبُّكَ وَمَا قَالَ, your Lord did not neglect you. And again, we discussed this. Even the beauty of these, if you read the translation, you will find your a lot there in the translation. But in fact, in the original text, there is no your. أَلَمْ يَجِدْكَ يَتِيمًا فَآوَاكَ, so he protects you and your. There is no you there. And this is omitting these in the original text is also to omit that it looks like that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding his prophets of his blessings. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he won't actually let the Prophet to feel that Allah is telling him, we did this for you, we did this for you, we did no. So for this, rhetorically now, amazing in Arabic language, Al-Quran removed this you in the original text. ما ودعك ربك وما قال, not قالك. It has to be قالك in the Arabic language. But there is no ka. وما قالك. This is how it looks. And if you read the translation, you will find this قالك, you. ما ودعك ربك وما قال ولسوف يعطيك أم يجدك يتيما. Then reminding the Prophet ﷺ of his being an orphan. ألم يجدك يتيما فآوى. It should be فآواك. This is the language. This is how it works. But Quran omitted this ka. So not to feel the Prophet that Allah is with you. فآوى. ألم يجدك يتيما فآوى وجدك ضالا فهدى. Again, it has to be فهداك. But if you read translation, you won't see this. You won't taste this, the beauty of the language here. And you won't find this at all about if you read the translation. Because, well, you cannot take this you from the English, otherwise, it doesn't make sense. So, after all this, after this pause of the revelation, Jibreel came and with the duha, ma wadda'aka rabbuka wa ma qala. So that's one thing. Second, again, this is, we said, having the Quran within 23 years is to connect the Quran with its historical and social context. So many things happened. Quran talks about Ghazwat Badr, the Battle of Badr. When this happened? In the second year of Hijrah, and all these second, third, and his uncle died in the 9th year of his bi'tha, revelation, and he was there. إِنَّكَ تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ. So this is the reflection of the Quran with its own society, with the historical, the context, historical context, and so the social context, and all this about halal and haram. So there is a reflection of these 23 years in the Quran. Imagine if the Quran, well, Badr is not happening yet, Badr is not yet here. And then the Quran once is there, and even al-yawma akmaltu lakum dinakum, today we complete your religion, perfect, wa atmamtu alaykum ni'mati, perfect your religion. But this is on the first day of the revelation, we have all this. What will happen to the Muslim community? Then they will not live with the Prophet, because for them it's too much. I mean, where is Badr, where is Uhud, where is Khandaq, all these events which will happen in the next 23 years, it's not there yet. So they won't believe, simply. So this is the reason for this. And it's also, our scholars, they talk about the wisdom of, having these halal and haram gradually. And you know what happened to the wine, al-khamr, alcohol, how it's haram. It wasn't actually haram on the first phase. No, it was the first because the Arabs, they used to drink a lot. Of course, no one can say now I drink a lot and have gradually, unless if it's some medical reasons. I don't know. That's maybe a different issue. But at that time, the Prophet ﷺ, they asked him, can we pray while we drink? He said, no, avoid to do this. But you can drink, but avoid to pray. And then, al-khamr wal-maisr wal-ansab, so gradually through 3 phases. And the last time when Jibreel revealed that the wine is haram, they stopped there. But this happened, I think, over 7 years of Sharia. So that's not only this one, many things. So all these, but in terms of as a miracle, as a mu'jiza, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could do this, reveal the Quran in once. Again, this is all up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's part of the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How this happened, and how Jibreel would come to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, yeah, and this is we take straight to the revelation itself, to the transmission of the Quran, because has been said lots on this, especially with from Western scholars, which always say, I mean, even sometimes, even for those who think they know a lot in the Muslim world, in the Arab world. So you have those people who said, how do we know that this is exactly the Quran that was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ? Yes. And again, we have to answer these questions. We have, even again and again, I'm always highlighting these and emphasizing this. If you have your kids, your community, your anyone, not only kids, we may ask, you may have someone who's 50, 60, 70, they may ask this, of course, how do we know this? And always Quran talks about Ibrahim, قال ربي أرني كيف, show me how, كيف تحيي الموتى, قال أولم تؤمن? Didn't you believe? He said, نعم ولكن ليطمئن قلبي. It's just to elevate your iman. So it is good to know how the Quran was transmitted, so to also to confirm. So I believed in this through knowledge, not just through imitation, through taqlid. I hear all these saying that Quran from the Prophet. This is the Quran we had from 14 years. Now I'm saying this. No, it has to be through knowledge, which is especially now, as we said, now there is a boom of these getting information, from everywhere, from every source. So we have to teach our fellow Muslims, our kids, our community. Even if someone would ask you from outside the Muslim community, we have to have an answer for these. So the main one, it's the oral transmission. So has been the primary method of preserving the Quran. It wasn't actually the writing, no, it was the oral transmission. And we have to highlight this, because we need to know this. How it happens, even the Prophet ﷺ, when Jibreel used to come to him at the beginning of the revelation, he used to trying to say the verses. The moment Jibreel finished, he ﷺ starts reciting these. This is out of the fear from the Prophet ﷺ that he may forget certain letters, certain sounds. And then the Quran came to him. وَلَا تَعْجَلْ بِالْقُرْآنِ مِنْ قَبْلِ أَنْ يُقْرَأَ إِلَيْكَ. Just take your time. We are preserving this Quran. It is our job to preserve the Quran, not your job. It is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would hear Jibreel reciting the verse, one verse, two verses, three verses, the whole surah, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would repeat after him sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The verse, move not your tongue concerning to make haste therewith. It is for us to collect it and to give you the ability to recite. Ibn Abbas commented on this. He said, this means he will gather it in your heart. Then you will recite it. Who's doing this? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the ayah continues, and when we have recited to you, then follow the recitation. فَإِذَا قَرَأْنَاهُ فَاتَّبِعْ قُرْآنَهُ. Comment from Ibn Abbas, this means, so listen to it and remain silent. Remain silent. So do not haste. So the moment Jibreel finish, and you start. And our scholars took from these an adab, the manner. And when you listen to your Shaykh teaching you, قل أعوذ برب الناس. And before you finish الناس, you say قل أعوذ. No, you have to say قل أعوذ برب الناس. Moment, and then you repeat قل أعوذ برب الناس. ملك الناس. ملك الناس. They said this is from the practice of Jibreel alayhi salam, the Prophet with Jibreel. So Ibn Abbas comments on this. This means, so listen to it and remain silent. So when Jibreel came to him, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam listened, and when he left, he would recite it as he had taught him. Cannot miss any letter. So this is how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There is a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to recite the Qur'an. And we mentioned this, remember, on the themes of the Qur'an, in the theme of tilawa. Yeah, recite to them, yatluna ayatihi. And we said, tilawa here also, it has a different meaning, which is tali in the Arabic language. If you say at-tali, means the next one. So if you do tilawa, we're expecting something to be followed, which is the action itself. And this is, we said, this is why the dua of Ibrahim, the supplication of Ibrahim alayhi salam, رَبَّنَا وَابْعَثْ فِيهِمْ, when he was building the Kaaba, and he raised his hand, alayhi salatu wasalam, Ibrahim, and he made his famous dua for the people of Mecca and for his own lineage to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. رَبَّنَا وَابْعَثْ فِيهِمْ رَسُولًا مِّنْهُمْ, send among them a messenger to do what? Not يقرأ, as we said, not يقرأ القرآن like the first words اقرأ بسم ربك. No, يتلو عليهم آيات. Tilawa. He could say يقرأ, but it doesn't actually convey the wisdom behind the revelation itself. Because if you just recite without putting this recitation in action, we are not fulfilling the aim, the main message of the Qur'an. So, رَبَّنَا وَابْعَثْ فِيهِمْ رَسُولًا مِّنْهُمْ يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتِكَ. So the main one here is a tilawa, and we find quite a lot to do this with this. How the Prophet ﷺ then, how he, so our scholars talk about this. So when Jibreel alayhi salam revealed this and everything finished, then what are these methods from the Prophet ﷺ to teach the Qur'an? So we talk about different methods. The first, when the Prophet ﷺ used to teach his companions, he would recite, of course, from memory. It must be from memory, and it was the practice, and it's still the practice of our shuyukh. This is kind of bid'ah, where people actually trying to take ijazah where they don't memorize the Qur'an. This is just new phenomena. This is just in 20th century, 21st century, when people start showing off that I have ijazah, I have permission to teach the Qur'an. Do you memorize the Qur'an? No, but I took ijazah. How did you take ijazah? Who provided you with this ijazah? It was a practice through the last 14 centuries. And this is what I said many times. You know what's happening now after this colonial period? We disconnect ourselves from our legacy in everything, because of these colonial powers and because of disease of ourselves, because of this ummah, and now because it's hard to memorize Quran. It's not easy. And someone said, but you have to put an effort here. It's not easy. It's not an easy task. It's not an easy task, you know. I remember when I was a kid in Algeria, it was snowing, it used to snow 1 meter, and in the morning you have to go, and the Shaykh never ever miss one day, never ever, even if it's snow for 2 meters, you'll find Shaykh there. You pray, inshallah, but you find him there. And you go, and during the nap, people are having their nap after Dhuhr, and we are there. No holiday. I think when I just reached the secondary school, I started going to beach and see, because during the summer, you are there in the mosque, memorizing the Qur'an, which is hard. With a stick that, you know, that's another issue. We don't want to mention this, yeah, otherwise it's stick, you know, 40, 50, even if you are the best of the best, stick that, you know, they're treating you every day with this. There's a long 3 meters, you know, an olive one. It's like the electric shock. It is hard. It's not easy. But now, because of this simplifying everything, how to become mufti in 3 days, how to become qari in 3 days, a universal qari, al-qari al-alami, al-allama, the shaykh, really horrible. And then when it comes, do you memorize the Qur'an? And you find this guy talking about halal haram, halal haram, halal haram. Do you memorize the Qur'an? No, it's not necessary to memorize the Qur'an. Where did you get this? This is completely against our legacy. For 14 centuries, hundreds of thousands of scholars from the east to the west, from the north to the south, in every part of the Muslim world, the first thing you start is memorizing the Qur'an, full stop. You don't start with grammar, you don't start with tafsir, ulum Qur'an, all these is the next step. It was an ijma', consensus. No one can argue on this. No one. Until this bid'ah starts in this 21st, 20th century, while I can say, no, it's not necessary to memorize the Qur'an. No. Okay, you can bring hadith, you can. That's an issue. This is why it must be from memory. And this one sometimes brothers come to me and they want to ijazah. Do you memorize? No, because I heard. No. There is no hearing, no, not because you are my friend, because I know you, because I'm shy, I cannot say. No. If you don't memorize the Quran, don't seek ijazah. Full stop. Salaam alaikum. You don't compromise your knowledge. No. So this is how the Prophet ﷺ, and even Jibreel, they call this al-ard. You come there, and the Prophet ﷺ himself would do the ard every year, every month of Ramadan. Once he sits next to Jibreel and he starts the Prophet ﷺ. Not me, not you. This is the Prophet, the one who has been revealed to him. We would sit like students next to Jibreel, reciting, and Jibreel listening to him every year for 23 years. And then once, his last year, he did it twice. The Prophet ﷺ knew that he's leaving this world because he did it twice. This is the practice. And this is why we taking this ulum Qur'an to note. So the first one is must be from memory. Like the hadith, the ard of hadith, we used to do this. We did a hadith. You take the book of hadith and you open the book, and Shaykh is reading the hadith and you correct him if there is a mistake. But you have your own book. You read from your own book. However, we've seen this with Al-Bukhari. Some of them, they memorize not hadith, they memorize the grammar, they memorize dictionary, they memorize. But for the Quran, it's a condition. You don't take these, and even the Shaykh, this is to the extent, sometimes, people, they don't believe you, especially if, even within our Muslim community, those who did not live this experience with shuyukh, or maybe those who are outside the Muslim community, when you tell them that Shaykh, when he's sleeping like this, he's sleeping, literally sleeping, wallahi. And you have 200, 300 revising the Quran. Every one is in Al-Baqarah, one in Nisa, one in Surah Al-Jinn, one in Tabarak, one in Al-Kahf. Imagine 200, and stick is there, the Shaykh is. And the moment you make mistake, the electric shock is there. And the Shaykh is in. You see, because of these amazing ability to even to not to if you make mistake, wallahi, we were over 400 students, 400 with one Shaykh. That's with one Shaykh. Yeah, now how many? You have assistants and you have teachers. It's for just 20, 25, 400. And I went once to Sultan of Algeria. One Shaykh, he passed away, rahimahullah, 1993. 1,372 when I reached that place. 1,372 students, and only Shaykh Mahammad al-Kabir, his name, Shaykh Mahammad al-Kabir, and he was, when I reached him, at that time he was 87 years old. Dictating for all these people, it was a desert, open, dictating all these people. And Shaykh never ever make mistake. Never ever. When they finish, after Isha, Shaykh, after Asr, Shaykh would bring kids, and he say, kids to teach them huruf, Qur'an and everything. And his own students would say to Shaykh, no, we do this on behalf. He said, no, that's my barakah, that's my blessing. So with you there is no barakah, but the barakah is with these kids. They may make dua for me. And he spent 60 years of his life teaching only the Quran, just immersing himself in the Quran, and never ever went outside his province, places called Adrar in southern of Algeria. So this is our legacy. If you try to bring a new thing, you're disconnecting yourself from this. Back to the second, this is, it must be recited to another person. That's saying, we get this from Jibreel to the Prophet ﷺ. Even to memorize the Quran from the Mus'haf, if you have the ability, you don't have Shaykh or whatever, for some reasons, we may have this, and you go and you memorize the Quran from the Mus'haf. Make sure to go to a teacher and to correct yourself. For two reasons. To correct, because you may read one word in a wrong way, and you think this is correct, but it is not. And this is Qur'an. You don't play with the Qur'an. The second thing, what one of the Andalusian scholars, he said, if you memorize the Qur'an only from the Mus'haf, you are disconnecting yourself from the blessed chain of the Shaykh. Because if you go to the Shaykh and you test your what you have memorized, you are already now in the chain, because this Shaykh is took from his Shaykh, and Shaykh from his Shaykh, from his Shaykh, from his Shaykh, till the Prophet ﷺ, from Jibreel alayhi salam, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You see where this chain takes you. Is the most blessed chain. So do not disconnect yourself. You said, no, I just, I can listen to YouTube and I can memorize YouTube. I can correct my tilawa from YouTube. No, go to Shaykh and try to listen to the Shaykh, read to the Shaykh, and then you are connected now to this blessed chain. It must follow general and specific rules of accuracy. We call it in the Arabic dhab, general dhab, which is so we have that in ahkam. For example, in ahkam Quran, we have some ahkam where if you cannot see the Shaykh, theoretically you cannot take this hukum. Like we have something they call ishmam. What is ishmam? In Quran, in the ahkam, when you recite, is when you have kasra, kasra, B, C, C, but you produce, if you produce the kasra, you slightly breaking your opening. So you say B, T, Fi. But if you do Dhamma, you do this circle, you say Bu, Tu, Fu. And these grammarians are, by the way, the person who introduced this, he was himself mathematician, by the way. It wasn't this Fatha, Kasra, Dhamma, but to facilitate, for the sake of the Qur'an also, to understand, to facilitate these, the Arabic script, there was no dots, no harakat, nothing, no these vowels, what they call them vowels, I call them harakat. So to introduce this, to be able to know this is ba, not bu, so he actually went, his name is Al-Khalil ibn Ahmad, rahimahullah, such great scholar. He took his students and they went to the cave. They went to the cave where they can hear the echo of the sound. And what he told him, when you see me open my mouth, put a little sign on the top of the letter. This is what comes, Fatha. So if you say Ba, if you hear Al-Ha, so you see here Fatha on the top of Ha, Ha. So you put Fatha. If you don't open your mouth, we call it Fatha. If you don't open your mouth, you cannot produce your sound. You say Ba, Ta, Tha, Ma, Na. You cannot say If you don't open, you don't produce. That's the rationale why he named it Fatha. And this is what Al-Fatiha, because if you open, the opening of the book is Al-Fatiha here. And he told him, if you see me breaking this opening slightly, put the same sign, same symbol under the letter. Alhamdulillah. So you will say, instead of Ba, you say B. T, Fi, G. And he said, فَإِذَا ظَمَمْتُ, if I make circle with my lips here, do Dhamma. They call it in Arabic Dhamma, which is you do Bu, Tu, Thu, Nu, and so on. So if you do Kasra, you have to break this slightly. But there is another here, there is a hukum here, we call it in Arabic Ishmam, in the Ihkam. Ishmam. What is this Ishmam? When you have, I know it's quite technical, but to show you that you need Shaykh, and you need to see exactly the movements. What is Ishmam? Is when you produce the Kasra, but you make the shape of Dhamma, which is Si'at wujuhu alladhina kafaru. When we read this, we don't say Si'at, we say Si'at wujuhu, Si. It should be Si. But we do this Ishmael. Si'at wujuhu alladhina kafaru. If you don't see the exact position and the practice of your Shaykh, you cannot do it. Theoretically, wallahi, you cannot. You need to see and to practice it again and again and again and again. So this is Ishmael. This is why it has to be recited to another person, and it has to be a must follow specific rules and accuracy. Yes, just but others where they have more. But in Hafs, just two. But for those who are experts, so they have to know this, because you find this in all these the Qur'an, all these 10. And then the Prophet ﷺ would recite these to his companions. The first thing is to recite to his companions, and after the recitation, he would ask his own writers, Kutabul Wahi, the writers of the revelation. We have 6 of them, to write the Wahi. So the writing is just an extra tool. It's not the main one, as we said earlier. The main one is the oral transmission. But the next one is the writing, and the Quran was written in different forms, on the woods and the sticks and on different objects. At the time, the paper wasn't well known to the Arabs. So the Prophet ﷺ would recite it to his companions. He would also recite the Quran to those to anyone who was inviting to Islam. And remember when Quraysh, they gathered together and they say, what are we going to do with this man? And they proposed different things. Well, let's make him a king, let's give him the keys of the Kaaba. You know, the keys of the Kaaba, it was prestige, you know, to have the keys of the Kaaba is it's like you are the best in the Meccan society. We do this, we do that. And they said, okay, Muhammad is challenging us, is challenging us with his words, with the Qur'an, with the elegance of the Qur'an. So we have to send him the best, the most elegant person in Meccan society to challenge him. And this one is the father of Khalid bin Walid. They sent him to the Prophet ﷺ, negotiating with the Prophet ﷺ. What do you need from the Meccan society? You need to stop Persian people inviting people, calling people to this new religion. And we offer you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the Prophet ﷺ was listening to him. He didn't enter at him at all. And he said, أفرغت يا أبا الوليد? Have you finished? He said, yes, نعم. قال فاسمع مني إذن, and listen to me. Then the Prophet ﷺ started reciting Hameen to him. تنزيل من الرحمن الرحيم كتاب فصلت آياته قرآنا عربيا لقومنا بشيرا ونذيرا فأعرض. And the companions, they could see the face of Walid changing. And when he reached to the story of Ad with Thamud, and then when they denied the message of the prophets, and the moment that the Prophet ﷺ was going to recite what happened to Ad and Thamud, so Walid, he took his hand and he put on the mouth of the Prophet ﷺ. He said, ناشدتك الله يا ابن أخي أنت, by Allah, please stop, because it shocked him. And he knew what happened to these people before. So he went, he was walking, and Abu Jahl, he said, Wallahi laqad raja'a bighayri al-wajhi alladhi dhahaba bih. This is different face. And then he came and he praised the Qur'an with the most elegant attributes that we ever read in the description of the Qur'an. He was the best one, although he was non-Muslim, described the Qur'an after the Prophet ﷺ. And he said, Allah, in a long story. And then later on he changed his mind. He said, well, the best thing you say about this is Sahir. He's doing the magic here. And Qur'an, إِنَّهُ فَكَّرَ وَقَدَرَ فَقُتِلَ كَيْفَ قَدَرَ. We don't want to get in. So the Prophet ﷺ used to recite Qur'an to his community, to people who came to embrace Islam, reciting to people gathered at the mosque, reciting the Quran to the jinn, and it has been recorded in the Quran when the Prophet ﷺ went to Ta'if, and it happened to him. What you are aware of this, and he was very upset, the Prophet ﷺ, to the extent that he said, I was walking and I didn't know where I was until I was in a valley, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent him the angel of the mountains with Jibreel, and the story you know it. And after that, a group of jinn came to the Prophet ﷺ. And they قالوا يا قومنا وإذ صرفنا, when we sent to you نفر من a group of jinn يستمعون القرآن. He was reciting and the jinn were there listening to the Quran, enjoying the Quran. Then Ibn Abbas said, it looks like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying to his prophets, if the mankind, if the nas, people denied your message, then al-jinn will believe in your message. And they believed on the spot. When they heard, they said, Amanna. And even Ibn Hajar, he considered those as the companions of the Prophet. And even he provided biography to one of them with his name and everything, and he used to be the judge of jinn. So the Prophet ﷺ would recite to these. Reciting in a prayer, the congregation would hear the Prophet ﷺ reciting the Qur'an in prayers, in sermons, and one of the neglected sunnahs I've just witnessed it once. The Prophet ﷺ from time to time, he used to deliver his khutbah just to recite Surah Qaf, nothing else. He would sit there, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and you do alhamdulillah, nahmadu wa nasta'in, Qaf wal Qur'an al-Majid, bal ajibu an ja'ahum mundirun minhum, and then complete the surah, sit, second khutbah, win dua, nothing. He used to do this, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I've just witnessed this once with one of our scholars in my life. Never ever. This is one of the neglected sunnah. But if you do it, maybe people say, "What is he doing? This is crazy." But it's And one of our companions, radiallahu anha, women companions, she said, "I memorized Surah Qaf from the mouth of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam during Khutbah al-Jumu'ah," which means he did it a lot. He used to do it a lot. You cannot listen to the whole surah 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 times, maybe 20. Now every Friday there will be Shaykh reciting sajda. So most of, at least you know a bit here and there, So she said, حفظت سورة قاف من فم رسول, from the mouth of Rasul, في يوم الجمعة وهو يخطب بها. So he used to, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, recite there. And we stop here. So this is how the revelation came to the Prophet ﷺ. And we didn't talk about al-Makki wal-Madani. So next week we talk about the Meccan surahs and the Medina surahs, and the concept of the causes of revelation, asbab al-nuzul, and how that's the following week. We talk about something very important, which is Jam' al-Qur'an, how Abu Bakr gathered the Qur'an in one mushaf, and then Uthman, and we have to talk about this for 2 lectures, because it's a very important topic which people always raise these, and then after that we will talk about the different qira'ats, the variations of qira'ats, to have some knowledge about it. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. If you have questions, if not, we finish. That's the last year of the Prophet ﷺ. So 23 of Hijrah, when he died ﷺ. So for 22 years, Jibril used to revise the Quran with him in Ramadan, once in Ramadan. But during that last year, Jibril did 2 revisions, 2 sessions with him. He used to revise the whole Quran, not the Quran which only the verses he revealed, alayhi salam, Jibril, what the Quran was revealed. So the Prophet ﷺ would revise these parts with Jibril alayhi salam every year. And then in the last year, Jibril did this with him twice. So the Prophet ﷺ understood that this is an indication that his mission is nearly to finish. And of course, if his mission is finished, then it's the end of his life. This is what he said. فَعَرَضَنِي, we call this al-arda, so to recite to someone else. Allahu A'lam. Who No, Allah. Allah. And Jibreel, in fact, this is in the Quran. The Prophet asked Jibreel, you should visit us more because he likes Jibreel. And Jibreel said, وَمَا نَتَنَزَّلُ إِلَّا بِأَمْرِ رَبِّكَ. This is not for me to come to you. Jibreel, وَمَا لَهُ مَا بَيْنَ أَيْدِينَا وَمَا خَلْفَنَا وَمَا بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ. Everything is for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I cannot come to visit you from my own decision. So I just decide, Jibreel, want to go down to visit the Prophet's house. So the same thing, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would, and even the Jewish community, when they heard who brought this revelation, they said Jibreel. I said, this is our enemy. Jibreel is the enemy of the Jewish community, because for them, they thought, of course, although he was the one who brought the revelation to all the prophets, because he is the one, according to our teaching, Jibreel, he is a ruh, he is the one who take any kind of revelation to any prophet or any messenger. But they, for the Jewish community, well, they didn't like Jibreel, especially those in Medina. Said, who brought these? He said, Jibreel, is ذاك عدونا. Who's our friend? Mikael. And then the Quran, قل من كان عدوا لجبريل فإنه نزله على قلبك بإذن الله. So that's what answers your question. Everything is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Jibreel would just transmit this. He would say, Allah sent him with this. Yeah. Even salam, we mentioned this last time, Khadija, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked Jibreel, can you pass salam to Khadija? And then Jibreel alayhi salam said to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, أقرئ خديجة من الله السلام. Say that to Khadija, that Allah sent his salam to you. And we said last week, week before, that Khadija radiallahu anha, she's faqihah. She didn't say, we said, wa alayhi salam. So peace be upon Allah. No, she said, no, because she said, Allahu huwa salam. Allah is the salam, is the peace. Minhu salam, from him salam. Wa ilayhi salam, and to him salam. Wa alayka wa ala Jibreel salam. Upon you and Jibreel salam. Such an amazing understanding. So she knew that everything is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And even Jibreel could not say to Khadija Salamu Alaikum from his own. No, he has to wait for these. He's just passing these message from Allah. Aqri Khadija Salam. So it's everything here, it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Memorizing the Qur'an, ways. By stick. Wallahi, I've been teaching Arabic for the last 20 years, and we always, in those training, when we train teachers, we tell them to not forget the learner's needs. So, and your own way of learning. You do have your own. Some people are amazing in listening. You'll find some people in our community that English is amazing. If you ask them to write something, they don't know. They memorize. They just pick up the language, but they are illiterate. So you need to find your own style of learning. But I would say the most neglected skill here is the listening. The much listening you do, the more listening you do, the quicker you memorize. But the most important thing about Quran is special. It's not the issue of memorizing the Quran. No, this is not the issue. The issue is how to know how to hold it, how to keep all these what you memorize. That's the problem. I know many, you memorize the Quran, and maybe your experience, you memorize the Quran, and even here, and sometimes, can you lead the Tarawih? And I say, I cannot lead the Tarawih because I teach. And I say, no, you are Hafiz. No, I say, before I lead the Tarawih, I repeat my juz 50 times. Don't think it's easy to come here and to remember all these. It's not easy, wallahi. 50 times, I'm not exaggerating. 50 times. Because you need to keep this routine the whole of your life. If you, in Algeria they say this, if you forget the Quran one night, he forgets you a year. That's why it works like this. So I think from my experience, is not how to memorize, how to keep these, how to try to save what you memorized. It's just continue, even if you memorize two verses a day. If someone would live for 60 years, you could finish. Yeah. It's a journey, it's a life journey, and I always emphasize this. If you have your kids still memorizing the Quran, don't put pressure on them. Yes, it's good to take the opportunity when they're young, but if they're doing this continuously, let them doing this continuously, inshallah, and one day they memorize the Quran. So I think it's mostly an experience, personal experience, rather than rules. Yeah, but the rule here is maintain what you already memorized. That's the most important aspect in hifz. And this is from Jibreel alayhi salam also. Again, all these we took from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They did not invent these things. They took from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, from the practice of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam with Jibreel alayhi salam, and from the practice of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam with his companions, with the early generation. Allahu a'lam. Yeah.
I'm intrigued about you said you don't want to cover the seven letters?
It's not, 7 ahruf. This is because it's very technical, and it raises, I've just actually got a book which wasn't published before. It's written by one of the great Egyptian scholars, Shaykh Mahammad. He died in 2002, I think. To my knowledge, is the best. And he explained this in 700 pages. Yeah. It's quite, we may talk about this when we, because the ulama differs on what is this ahruf. Is this ahruf the dialects of the Arabian peninsula, so different tribes, or is the some phenomena in the language, like you heard me tonight recite with imala, you say وَالنَّجْمِ إِذَا هَوِي مَا ضَلَّ صَاحِبُكُمْ وَمَا غَوِي وَمَا يَنطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوِي. They call it imala. So you actually, it's kind of leaning from fatha to kasra, instead of saying in hafs وَالنَّجْمِ إِذَا هَوَى ما ضل صاحبكم وما غوى. But in imala, and we have kubra and sughra, we have the major imala and the small imala. So we have والنجم إذا هوي أو هوي. Some of the scholars, they consider these as ahruf, and some of us said no, it's like the way how these tribes, some of the tribes, they say, for example, in the Quran you say تعملون and you write يعملون. Yeah. And sometimes it's يعملون, talking about the they, and sometimes it's you, which is varieties here of the qira'at. But the Qur'an, the most what is in the Qur'an is on the language of Quraysh, because they are the most eloquent tribe, city in the Arabian Peninsula. Yeah? So that's one of the interpretation of the Sab'at Ahruf. So it is the characteristics of the language itself, yeah, or the different these letters, for example, يعملون and تعملون, يهدي, نهدي, using, for example, the passive form instead of the active form, but it gives the same meaning. It doesn't affect the meaning, and we shouldn't mix these with the 7 qira'at. This is what happened actually. 7 qira'at are totally different. 7 qira'at is a later concept, as we see inshallah next weeks. So 7 ahruf is from the beginning of the revelation, but 7 qira'at is later, is 120 years later, where you have these, we say qira'at Warsh. I mean, who's Warsh? He's a scholar, or Nafi', or Hafs. He is a reciter who's equipped himself with, he is an expert, spent all his life reciting the Qur'an until he is an expert in the Qur'an. So people from all over the world, they used to come to these 7 imams to take from them. So then they became an authority in taking. So who's this qira'ah? Qira'at Nafi'. Who's this qira'ah? Qira'at Hamza. Who's this qira'ah? Qira'at Kisai. This later stage, because later on they even the scholars, Malik, who is an imam, who is the chief scholar of the Medina. But when people ask him, they used to ask him about the Qur'an, ask Nafi'. Nafi' is the one who watched Qalun, and they said he used to sit in the rawda of the Prophet ﷺ, teaching the Qur'an for 70 years. 70 years. So anyone would ask, for example, for sajda, is this sajda? And you can see, for example, in what, is this sajda, can we do sajda? He said, ask Nafi', don't ask me. This is no expertise. And he's Malik. We'll elaborate on this, inshallah, in the future, inshallah, when we talk about Qur'an. I think we take the last one, it's 906.
You say Quran, it comes slowly, by slow. Is it other book, it come the same way, or it's on the Quran?
We don't have exact, but we know as Musa, the Torah comes once. كتبنا له في الألواح. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala written the Torah, the Old Testament, on the tablets, not only one tablet. How many? We rely only maybe on some Israeli narrations from the Tanakh and all this. That's where there were 7 tablets, but we don't have in our Islamic teaching, we don't have sound narrations how many, but some of them said 7, some of them said 12, some of them said 3. So Torah was given to Musa alayhi salam once, Ibrahim once, Dawood once, and those we know, and the New Testament, the Zabur al-Injil, to Isa alayhi salam also once. And most of our scholars on the opinion, however, as I said, we don't have authentic hadith on these or whatever, but it's their opinion, which may be consensus among our scholars. This is why the Qur'an is unique. The Qur'an was revealed within 23 years. This is what we mix these kind of revelation totally different from and this is why we, for example, the Torah, the Tanakh, is just halal and haram, halal and haram, do, don't do, and there is no Yeah, this is a later stage where you have these how this world started, and there was, but mainly Torah is halal and haram, legal text. The Quran is it's not, and the New Testament is just stories. Quran is this kind of mixing and interaction with its context in a way that you may take the occasion, for example, something happened during the era of the Prophet ﷺ, and you can take a lesson from these, and you say, what happened to the people of Uhud, what happened to people of Badr, it can be repeated in generations after, and you just take, you said that this is what happened to people of Uhud according to the Qur'an, this is what happened to Badr according to the Qur'an. This is what make the Qur'an is totally different than the revelations. I think what's his name, the Indian Mahammad Iqbal, if you are aware of his books and works, he wrote quite a lot on these very good works comparing the notion of revelation regarding the Quran and other revelations before the Quran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, jazakumullah khair.